You guys, so breaking news. All right, so it appears that now this is just a rumor, but I'm doing some research, but I'm hearing from various reports from various different people that Canelo could be headed back to Eddie Hearn matchroom in DAZN because it appears that even though Canelo allegedly gave Al Haymon an extension to provide proof of funds for a May 4th fight to be featured on Amazon PBC, it appears that Al Heyman has failed to provide Canelo proof of funds, hedge funds, to basically put together his next fight. So he is in breach of contract. So it appears that Canelo is a promotional free agent and he is headed back to Matchroom, according to reports. Now, this is just a rumor. I'm doing more research, but a few people are talking about this. Now, rumor has it that Canelo is seriously considering going with Edgar Berlanga for his May 4th return to boxing. He has a good rapport with Eddie Hearn. It'll be an easy fight to make. And rumor has it that they are going to begin negotiations today. So it looked like Canelo may be leaning towards Edgar Berlanga. Jaime Mugia is a possibility, but keep in mind, Canelo says he didn't feel comfortable, or he says he doesn't see himself fighting any more Mexicans. And keep in mind, Jaime Mugia is a golden boy fighter, and we all know that Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya had a rough separation. There's some bad blood between them, and I don't think that Canelo wants to put any money in Oscar De La Hoya's pocket. I know Jaime Mugia was a name that they threw out there, but I believe that Canelo didn't have no intentions on fighting Jaime Mugia for a lot of different reasons. Because it wouldn't make sense for him to fight Jaime Mugia, who's Mexican, and then refuse to fight David Benavidez, who's Mexican. So that would make any kind of sense because then it would be like Canelo is quoted. He's on video saying he doesn't see himself fighting any more Mexicans. That came out of Canelo's mouth. And that's just real talk. He said it. We didn't. So I didn't think Jaime Mugia was really in the running. I think that was just a name that they threw out there. But I think that he's gonna possibly choose Edgar Berlanga. Like I said, it's an easy fight to be made. And then at the end of the day, Edgar Berlanga is from New York. I think he's from the Bronx. It would make all the sense in the world to have this fight at Madison Square Garden. You know, it would sell out, and all the Puerto Ricans would come out in support of Edgar Berlanga. And then they would also come to see Canelo. Canelo has fought at Madison Square Garden before, and he sold out Madison Square Garden. So why wouldn't Canelo return to Madison Square Garden to fight Edgar Berlanga? It makes all the financial sense in the world. And then we can finally get some clarity on what's going on with Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Will that fight happen? And will it be in New York or will it be in Las Vegas? Because based off the fact mysteriously that fight got connected to Canelo's next fight, which I never heard of anything like that before in my life. You know, it just means to me that the PBC is in serious trouble. And once again, Al Heyman, he doesn't have a network deal. I think if Amazon had gave him some upfront money, I think he would have been willing to, try to make the fight. So here's the thing now. Now that he's lost Canelo, now he has to turn his attentions on Tank. This is why I don't believe for the most part that he wants Tank to fight on, other, other networks and do cross promotional deals because now he has to predicate his next move on what happens with Tank. So now it makes you question, would he still be willing to try to match him up with somebody like Frank Martin? Yeah, the fight may sell, but let's just keep it a buck. Is Tank gonna do 1.2 million pay-per-views to see him fight a relatively unknown Frank Martin? You know, you have a lot of Tank apologists that make excuses that ride the coattail of Al Heyman and Tank Davis. Tank Davis had success, surprising success with the Ryan Garcia fight. It did surprisingly well. It did better than expected. But let's not make it look like Tank was doing world beating numbers before the Ryan Garcia fight. He got lucky with that fight, and you know that's just the bottom line. Can he do it again? Can he sell even 500,000 pay-per-views fighting Frank Martin? And then what is the pay scale going to be for that fight? How do you get a return for that fight if you have to pay Tank a guaranteed $40 million for Frank Martin, and you can't even guarantee that the fight sells 200,000 pay-per-views? How does everybody involved make any kind of money? You know, it has to make dollars and it has to make sense. This is what these people don't be wanting to tell you while they be doing a lot of cheerleading for, you know, Tank Davis. Me, myself, I've been really doing my research, trying to understand the business, talking to people behind the scenes and learning what knowledge I can so I can get it back to you guys so you can understand when you listen to these dudes that don't cover boxing, that just sit up here and just talk a bunch of shit and just make up a bunch of shit and don't even know what the hell that they talking about. You know, it's just bad for everybody. But I'm trying to give you the ballistics of what's going on. How do you pay Tank $30 million to fight Frank Martin and you don't have a guarantee or a trajectory of what you think that fight is going to do on pay per view? If you put it on pay per view, everything has a trajectory. Unfortunately, Spence versus Crawford didn't meet the trajectory that Showtime had in mind. So, once again, what do you think Tank versus Frank Martin is going to do on pay per view when nobody knows who Frank Martin is unless you are a diehard boxing fan or you seriously follow the sport of boxing? So the PBC is in the PBC. I know a lot of you PBC apologists are upset and think that we're attacking and we want Al Heyman to fail and all this kind of stuff, but no, it is what it is. Al Heyman just did a lot of bad business. He had the opportunity to elevate the PBC, but he refused for the most part to do cross promotional fights unless it was absolutely necessary, where he could have just been going back and forth. Now, I know Al Heyman allegedly got dead wrong, according to who you believe. A lot of people feel like Eddie Hearn like gave him the shaft as far as Deontay Wilder, Charles Martin, and that fight being made and letting Charles Martin uh, go over to Matchroom and fight Anthony Joshua, and Anthony Joshua got the third belt, or the second of the third belts he had, in which we never could get Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. So this is just not a good look for the PBC. I'm not like some of these other dudes that's praying for the downfall of the PBC. Nah, that's just not the case. But at the end of the day, you have to just keep it a buck. You have to call Al Heyman and the PBC out on some of their antics. Al Heyman is one of them dudes. He tried to outsmart everybody. He tried to circumvent. He tried to maneuver. He tried to do things different from what everybody else did, and it worked to a certain degree. But then it started not to work. As when the networks were mandating and demanding that Al Heyman put together better fights and present them with better fights and try to do more cross promotional fights, Al Heyman refused. And then at the same time was asking them to foot the bills for pay-per-views that nobody cared for and did not want to see, and they flopped tremendously. So that's the problem. So now we're going to have to see what happens with Canelo in the next coming days. What's his next move going to be? Because like I said before, this is the last week of February. You know, March 1st is this coming Friday. And then It's April, and then it's May. So then it's going to come to the point, okay, Canelo needs to make a decision on what he's going to do. Because keep in mind, his next fight will be 2 months away. That's exactly 8 weeks. And usually you need an 8-week camp to prepare for a fight, at least. And Canelo has yet to name an opponent, and time is getting short. Devin Haney, for the most part, he know who he's going to be fighting. In all likelihood, unless Ryan Garcia pulls out of the fight, he's going to be fighting Ryan Garcia. But hopefully they have a backup plan in store just in case Ryan Garcia pulls out of the fight. So that's just basically the bottom line. But I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on what's going on. So there you have it. That Canelo could be headed back to Matchroom and DAZN because it appears that Al Haymon didn't have his money and failed to provide proof of funds. So there you have it.